Hello, angels, baddies, and bitches. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Amber Akilla. I am a DJ, music producer / internet girl. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Amber Akilla. You can listen to mixes and playlists on Spotify and SoundCloud. And you can listen to my podcast, Friend Crush with Amber Akilla. I don't claim to be an expert on anything, so this is just me exploring different ideas, looking for different ways to communicate relationship, connection, authenticity, etc. Today's topic is closure and the illusion of being able to get closure from other people. So if you're going through like a romantic breakup, a life shift, this like feeling of overwhelm that you might have in some kind of transition phase, firstly, I recommend you listen to my Training for a Breakup podcast episode, which addresses all these sorts of things that you can do in that time. But specifically when it comes to closure, I think that closure is not something that you seek from outside of yourself. It's something that you have to decide to move through. And the thing that you want so desperately from outside of you will just naturally come from a result of you taking action and forward moving action. Because when we talk about things over and over again to our friends, to our therapist, to ourselves, it gives you this illusion of making progress. You are overanalyzing your emotions. You are overanalyzing the situation. You are trying to better understand the psychology of the person that hurt you, disrespected you, or disappointed you. But in reality, you're just going around in circles, okay? And what you need to do is radically accept the situation as it is. Radical acceptance is not excusing the other person. It's not placing a moral judgment on it. It's just being able to see a situation clearly and stepping back or detaching from an emotional or moral projection that has some kind of like judgment or deciding or conclusive factor about what this situation is. It just is what it is, okay? And that can be a hard or a tough pill to swallow sometimes because you feel so disappointed and you feel so hurt and you feel this sense of longing or this sense of urgency or this sense of desperation for an explanation. And sometimes in this moment, there is no explanation. And the only thing that you can do is sit with the reality of what has just occurred and learn to accept it as it is. Because whenever you run away from the situation at hand, you are not able to move forward with clarity. You are not able to move forward with awareness and intention. You need to be aware and in acceptance of what the situation is in order to take action, okay? You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be upset, but you can't allow your emotions to overtake your decision making, okay? Because when you make decisions from a hurt place or from a sad place, that's not going to give you an outcome. Making a decision from a neutral place or one where you're acting in service of your happiness, okay? You don't even realize sometimes that you are making decisions in service of furthering the way that you feel now. And if you want to feel differently, you need to accept the situation as it is and then try to look at it from the point of view of someone who is moving through it, from someone who is not stuck in a desperate or depressed or disappointed state of mind, okay? It's not that you get rid of your disappointment, it's that you accept it for what it is and you ask yourself, how do I want to feel and how would someone who wants to feel that way act right now? And how can I continue to be consistent in choosing to act that way rather than in a way that's going to exacerbate how I'm feeling now? And I have that video where I talk about hot girl habits. And, you know, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but doing meditation, doing thought dumping practices are so helpful and therapeutic when you are going through an emotionally overwhelming time because it allows you to create space between the thoughts and the thinker. It allows you to recognize that all the thoughts that you're having around your emotions, you can choose which ones you do and don't attach to, which ones you do and don't take action on. It's not just a matter of I'm feeling sad and I have this thought and then I'm going to do whatever comes after that. I'm feeling sad. I'm having all different kinds of thoughts. Which thoughts are the ones that are going to help me move forward in a positive direction, okay? And I'm going to draw you a diagram to demonstrate the illusion of closure being able to come from another person. Because if you feel that you've been disappointed or hurt by someone, you only feel that way because you've emotionally invested into this relationship, because you've attached subconsciously some part of your self-concept that maybe you need to take responsibility for, and they haven't treated it with the respect and the tact that you hoped for. And now you're disappointed at them, and also disappointed in yourself for giving that part of yourself away. And this isn't to say that you close off forever and you're never vulnerable again, but you need to take accountability and responsibility for the fact that you giving this part of yourself to this other person and them not treating it with respect means that you have to reclaim it for yourself, okay? It doesn't mean that there's anything that you can say or do that's going to make them change the way that they behave if you're at a point where you feel that you need closure from this person. If this person could give you closure, you would not be in this situation to begin with. You would not need or want them to take accountability if they were able to do so. Because in a relationship of any kind, there is like wiggle room and space for disagreements and compromise. But I think that everybody has an uncrossable line, okay? Especially as you get older, you become more and more aware of what this is if you are starting to self-reflect and like do the work. And when you need closure from someone, that means that uncrossable line has been crossed at some point, and you are hoping that they can somehow reel back from it, okay? And I feel like if you didn't know this person and they did the same thing, you wouldn't be offended because you haven't made that emotional investment, right? And because you've made the emotional investment and they haven't treated it with tact, or they haven't treated you with respect, now you feel like you can't move forward unless this person tells you what you want to hear and is able to match whatever emotional investment you feel that you've made that they're not reciprocating. But again, if you really want to move forward in a productive way, you need to accept the situation for what it is and be determined in moving forward and not being defined by this, healing and progressing in a way that redefines who you are. You are going to be different to the person that you were before this happened, to the person that you were before this relationship. And in that process, one day you'll wake up or you'll turn around and you'll realize that you don't have an emotional charge on this memory anymore to the same intensity that you used to, or something will happen and poetic justice will be served, or you will bump into this person or hear about this person and you'll wonder why you were ever caught up in having them meet your needs, because you've learned how to meet your needs in a way that they never could, okay? You've learned to meet your needs in a way where you no longer seek or you no longer expect other people to be responsible for the way that you feel, and that is more rewarding than that person turning around and saying that they're sorry or taking accountability when the damage has been done and you're already too far gone, okay? And when you focus too much on trying to understand why someone has hurt you, or like where they're coming from or what their thought process was, you're always going to be disappointed regardless of whether you find out or not, okay? It's always going to be the most boring reason, like they just didn't know. They just don't care. They just, had some childhood trauma that caused them to do this or that. And like, regardless of what the reason is, it doesn't change the fact that you are the one that has to move forward. You are the one that has to decide how you're going to let this affect you, and whether or not having this person in your life is something that you can continue to allow with this information that you now have. And I think very often when we get to a situation where we want closure from someone, it's never like there weren't signs to indicate that this happening was a possibility. And I'm not saying or invalidating anyone that has truly felt blindsided, but if you really sit and reflect on your relationship with this person and remember behaviors that they participated in, whether it's the way that they treated you or the way that they treated other people, there's always little signs. Okay, there's always little signs, and it's like, okay, given everything that I've seen so far, it's actually not that surprising that this person would treat me the way that they did. And maybe I was delusional at the time and I thought, oh, I'm different. They told me about how or they described to me the ways in which they realized they were being toxic in their previous relationships, and this made me think that they'd somehow changed and I was going to be different. But now that I think about it, just because they were able to describe the toxic behavior that they participated in retrospect, doesn't mean that they're exercising self-awareness and intention in the way that they behave on a daily basis, in the way that they behave towards me, to actually change that pattern of behavior. Okay, so recognizing that is also important too. And it doesn't mean that you have to beat yourself up about it just because there were red flags and you ignored them. But make a mental note, okay? Write it down in your journal, in your thought dump. Okay, there were all these little things that this person did. They were rude and disrespectful to their friends or to their co-workers or to their exes. And the way that they treated me is actually in line with that pattern. So it's not actually about me. The way that they behave is not a reflection on my value or on who I am. It's a reflection of them. The way that I treated them is a reflection of me, my desire to be loved, the way that I want to be treated, and the way that I see my relationship with the world. And it's not really about them either. Okay, and that's kind of like a really weird concept to wrap your head around, recognizing that it's not personal, and also understanding that love is not just a feeling that you have towards a person. It's also a reflection of the effort that you put in to create a third reality with you and another person. That's how I understand healthy love, like actual love, love as a verb, love as being able to accept another person's best interests and to hold them as equally important to my own. We are two people from separate realities coming together, and we put in effort to create a third shared reality, okay? And oftentimes people just feel like it's two people enmeshing, or like one person fitting into their reality, or with no effort to fit into or understand theirs. And, that's just human nature. That's just the way that a lot of us have been conditioned. But I think that when you think about love as like we're two people, we have separate realities, we're projecting onto each other all the time, and it's the effort that we make to create that third reality that determines the nature and the health of our relationship. And often when you get to a place where someone has disrespected you or disappointed you to a level where you want closure from them, you realize that you never really created that third reality, or that third reality was very tenuous and not really built on a healthy foundation. If anything, it was built on an ignorance or a willful ignorance towards the incompatibilities that actually existed between you, the red flags that were popping up from this person's behavior that you just kind of ignored because you liked the attention, or you just felt lonely, or there was some other motive for continuing this relationship. And none of those things make you an inherently bad person, and it's not an issue of morality. It's just an issue of, okay, what was I actually doing? What am I actually dealing with? How can I make better decisions moving forward? It's not I'm dumb because I didn't look at the red flags, or they're dumb because they didn't truly understand me for who I was. Like, it just is what it is, and it's easier when you just think of it that way and find out how to move forward first. And then with the benefit of retrospect, you will be able to better understand and get clarity on the situation, and that in and of itself is closure. Okay, you being able to accept and move forward without being defined by this situation, that's closure. Not that person turning around and making you feel like it's okay to feel the way that you feel. You can make it okay for you to feel the way that you feel, even if that person is not around. Because if they were able to do that, you wouldn't be in this situation to begin with. And I'm going to draw you a diagram, and hopefully this is going to make some sense because I'm just doing it off the dome. Okay, so this is you. And this is the person that you seek closure from. At first, you were obviously in some kind of relationship. There was an exchange of energies that was occurring between you. And understanding that you are like a consciousness that is being filtered through a skin suit, okay? And psychologically, your ego is like the boundary between you and the outside world. So when you are engaging with other people and you're interacting with other people, you're having an internal emotional response to the way that you're being treated by other people. And this is determined by your personality, your context, your values, your attitudes, because this person could be dealing with another person and do the exact same thing, but their internal emotional response might be different, okay? And vice versa. So when you get to a point where this relationship is no longer viable, but this person has done something to you that has crossed the uncrossable line, you have an internal emotional response to this, okay? But the illusion of closure is that this person has to understand what's going on inside of you. If they were able to do that, they wouldn't have put you in this situation to begin with. You know what I mean? So when you are constantly defaulting to this person to make you feel okay about this, you are disempowering yourself, okay? You are making it seem like this person has more control over how you feel than you do. But self-awareness is being able to look within and recognize and accept your emotions as they are, sit in uncomfortable emotions, sit in happy emotions too, because some people can't do that. It can be very difficult for some people to do that in different stages of their lives. And when you take responsibility for the way that you feel and you relinquish the mental and spiritual tie you've created into thinking that this person is responsible for your emotional reaction to how they treat you, you are free, okay? And also understanding that, like, thinking about something over and over and over again and trying to analyze this person's internal world is counterproductive, okay? If they were able to communicate to you who they really are, how they really feel, what they're really motivated by, you would know, okay? They would be doing that. Whether it's because they don't want to, whether it's because they're not capable of, it doesn't matter. They're not doing it, you're not seeing the results, and you are defaulting to them to be able to validate you. But in reality, you need to be able to validate you. And I say that, like, at best, you want to be like 80% being self-validation, okay? You know how to make yourself feel good. This is a combination of, like, the intention and awareness you bring to all the areas of your life: self-care, friendships, family, work, hobbies, interests, consumption, etc., etc. Like, 80% of you can validate you. And then the 20% is give or take. Whether you have it or you don't have it, you're still 80% good, okay? But if you're living in a state of lack where it's like 20% self-validation and 80% validation from other people, that's when you get into the trap of thinking that other people need to validate you, need to recognize how you feel in order for you to feel okay about it. That's not a great place to be, okay? And when you are in a situation where you feel so disrespected by someone that you feel that they need to validate how you feel in order for you to be okay, this is a sign and a gift for you to start to take responsibility for how you feel, okay? There is a positive and a negative, a light and a dark to every experience that you have. And the disappointment that you've experienced and the injustice that you've experienced, the disrespect, your internal response to this is an indicator that there is a part of you that can be worked on, that can have a little bit more awareness brought to it, okay? And again, it's not about good versus bad, happy versus sad. It's about integrating those two sides because they exist within you at all times, okay? And sometimes at the beginning of a relationship, it's just the highs. It's just the fun part that's getting stimulated, and it's only a matter of time until that shadow side comes out, okay? And we all have different levels of tolerance, and we all have different levels of self-awareness and compatibility in different relationships. And for some people, you can accept the light and dark, especially when you've learned to do that within yourself. And for other people, even if you've done it within yourself, you might see their shadow side come out and it's completely incompatible and it's going across the uncrossable line for you. And that's okay. And that takes time, okay? You don't have to beat yourself up about it because you did the best that you could with what you knew at the time and what you were willing to confront. And this experience now is giving you the opportunity to confront that in a new way. Okay, to bring new perspective to who you are and how you relate to yourself and how you relate to the world and how you will relate to other new people that might enter your life, okay? And when you have learnt to become responsible and accountable for the way that you feel and the way that you respond to the world around you, you will approach these future relationships differently to the way that you approached this previous one. And through this process, you will have closure. Okay, you will move away from this relationship. This will become smaller and smaller in your memory, in your psyche. these relationships will become bigger and bigger, and the cycle continues. There is no escape from the pain. There is no escape from the challenge. You just have to live, laugh, love, and slay, and learn. But do you see what I mean? This is an insane diagram. You have the ability to see you clearer than anybody else, or to see the inner workings of you, okay? Most people have no idea who they are, okay? So how the hell could they tell you what's going on inside of them when they don't even know? So the best thing that you can do is to focus on yourself and develop an awareness of what's going on inside of you. The reason why I'm doing this video is because I had a friend who was telling me how he was recently seeing a girl who kept trying to seek closure from her ex, to the point where she went on a trip with the ex even though she was dating my friend. And he was so confused by that, because she kept saying, like, closure, I need closure, I need closure. And he was like, it just seems so, like, made up what she was saying. Like, why does she need closure from her ex? They're over. And I think that when you don't have, like, a well-rounded self-awareness, like maybe you only have this much self-awareness, 10%, and then the rest of you is just not even within your consciousness, okay? You don't even know that it's there. You're constantly seeking outside of yourself to try to understand this part. Like, your subconscious is aware of it, but your conscious mind is not. So it's like this chase for acceptance and to be seen by someone that you've emotionally invested in, or that you've placed part of who you are in. And that can be really exhausting, and it can be really confusing for other people to witness. But yeah, slowly building up your awareness of self and recognizing that there is always a part of you that you're not conscious of, okay? Like, your conscious mind is like 5 to 10%, your subconscious mind is like 80 to 95% of your brain activity. So even if on a conscious level you have developed more self-awareness, I think it's always great to leave space for the things that you can't predict for, okay? For better or worse. And that's within yourself, and that's in your relationships with other people and the world around you too. When you keep that space open for new information, then you are able to expand, you are able to move forward with an open mind, rather than be so defined by the pain that you've previously experienced, or the disappointment that you've experienced clouding your judgment. And if that person ever turns around one day and does say the thing that you really wanted to hear, you'll be so over it anyway. You won't even care to hear it. It'll be like annoying that they even reached out to you to begin with, because you've moved on. And that's the goal, no? You'll realize that at the end of the day, if nobody got you, you got you. But yeah, those are my thoughts on closure. Off the dome. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and share any stories you have around maybe times when you thought you wanted closure from someone and you never got it, or times when you've taken responsibility for the closure that you thought you needed someone else to give you. Subscribe to my YouTube, follow me on Instagram, on TikTok, on SoundCloud, on Spotify, listen to my podcast, Friend Crush with Amber Akilla. Stay hot and having fun. Tell your friends and family that you love them. Sending love and slay your way. I'll speak to you soon. Love you. Bye.